I'm just going to tell you right up front, I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted. We were up super late last night, 12 hours of broadcasting time last night, and this thing is far from done. It is not over. Okay, this is not over by any stretch of the imagination. So here is the latest. The Trump team, Bill Stepien, Trump's campaign manager, he says that Wisconsin is a tight race and recount territory. It is indeed extremely close. Right now, the vote count in Wisconsin, say it's about 97% in, and Joe Biden has a 0.6% lead in Wisconsin. He's up by about 20,000 votes in Wisconsin, and there are apparently still another 100,000 votes still left to be counted in Wisconsin as of this morning. So that is where things stand right now. Okay, then you move on over to Pennsylvania. Trump right now, Pennsylvania is taking its sweet damn time. For all the talk about Florida, well, by the way, being, Florida man and crazy state, Florida worked beautifully. Florida reported its vote totals when we were done by early in the evening with Florida. We'll get to Florida in a second because it shows some real pathways forward for the Republican Party in the future and some real shortcomings for the Democratic Party that are quite delicious in a variety of ways. Pennsylvania, Trump right now is up about 10 points in Pennsylvania, which is about 534,000 votes. There's still 1.6 million votes out there to be totaled. Those are supposed to break heavily Democrat, so it's going to be extremely close in Pennsylvania. North Carolina, Trump is likely to win. Michigan is really, really close, like separated by 12,000 votes at this point. Biden up 0.2 points, 0.2. Still about 500,000 votes to be counted in Michigan. Trump looks like he is going to finish off Georgia. So there's a lot of doubt last night as to whether Trump was actually going to win Georgia. It started off as likely Trump, then it moved to lean Trump, then it moved to toss-up, and now it's back to likely Trump at this point. Arizona is a state that is absolutely chaotic. Arizona was called very early on in the night by Fox News. They insisted that they were right. And now there's new information suggesting that maybe there are a bunch of votes outstanding in Arizona. So this is just an absolute mess. It's an absolute mess. The Trump campaign, Nevada is extremely tight. In fact, Nevada is only about 8,000 to 10,000 votes apart. And Nevada just decided they're not going to announce any new vote totals until tomorrow, which is this is all unconscionable. And guys, fix your election systems. Seriously. It doesn't mean that fraud is happening, but fix your damn election systems. So Stepien says, Michigan, they're confident in a pathway that includes the state. Nevada, they're claiming victory possible by 5,500 votes. And they're projecting optimism about Georgia and Pennsylvania as well. So recounts don't, as far as Wisconsin, recounts don't normally reverse 20,000 vote gaps. They don't. Usually it'll shift a couple hundred votes either way. In Florida, for example, George W. Bush and Al Gore, we had months of recounting, and it only shifted a couple hundred votes in Al Gore's direction. So shifting tens of thousands of votes on the basis of a recount is fairly unlikely. Trump campaign advisors believe that Arizona might still be in reach for President Trump on the regular count because they're still counting Election Day voters. So Trump could theoretically win Nevada and Arizona, and that would put him over the top. If Trump takes Nevada and does not win Arizona but wins Pennsylvania, then he could still be over the top. So this thing is not over yet. And this is putting aside the possibility of lawsuits. This is putting aside the possibility of irregularities being found. Right? So in other words, everything is a mess. Everything is an absolute mess. There are only a few things that are absolutely clear at this point in time. One is that the polls are damned garbage. So I've been bringing you the polls consistently. Okay, I've been bringing you the polls because I don't like operating in the absence of data. My bias in favor of data turns out to be a bias in favor of crap because the data here was crap. Okay, the data here was garbaggio. And it was really garbaggio on the national level. The final Real Clear Politics polling average spread on this election had Joe Biden up 7 points nationally. 7 points nationally. Right now, in the national vote count total, Joe Biden is up by less than 2 points nationally. Less than 2. He's at just over 50, and Trump is at just over 48%. Okay, that is not 7 points. It is certainly not 10 points. I mean, I'm just going to read you some of the polls that were being trotted out the day before the election. The Economist YouGov had Biden up 10 points, 10. IBD-TIPP had Biden up 4, and that was the most optimistic poll for Trump. Reuters had Biden up 7. CNBC had Biden up 10. Quinnipiac had Biden up 11. NBC News Wall Street Journal had Biden up 10. Okay, the gap is 2. 2. When you blow it that badly on the national polling, no one should ever trust you again. All these jackasses need to learn to code, like right now. And yeah, incompetence bothers me. It really, really does. Okay, how about the battleground states? So the battleground states were fairly wildly off as well. In the battleground states, in the Real Clear Politics polling average, which was more favorable to Trump than, for example, the 538 polling average. In the Real Clear Politics polling average, they had Trump down in Florida by 0.9. Trump will end up winning that state by 3%. So not particularly close in Florida. Once again, they blew it in Florida. In North Carolina, the Real Clear Politics polling average had Trump up by 0.2. Right now, North Carolina, with 95% reporting, has Trump up by about 2 points, 1.5, 2 points. The Real Clear Politics polling average in Arizona had Biden winning that state slim. It looks like that may hold up. In Wisconsin, here's a massive polling error in Wisconsin. In Wisconsin, the Real Clear Politics polling average had Biden up nearly 7 points in Wisconsin. Nearly 7 in Wisconsin. Right now, Biden is up by less than a point in Wisconsin. He's up by about 20,000 votes total in Wisconsin. That is a 6-point polling error. In Florida, you are looking at a 5-point polling error. In the national numbers, you are looking at a minimum 5-point polling error. In many of these polls, an 8 or 9-point polling error. Polling is chicken and trail reading. These people don't know what the hell they are doing. They don't know how to poll for Trump's coalition. They don't know how to poll people who are not college-educated white people. They don't know how to poll people who are not picking up the phone. All of your questions about polls were totally justified. Now, to be fair to myself, I did say I am skeptical that it is as far apart as the polls were suggesting. And I did say yesterday that Trump could easily win this thing without the polls being totally wrong on the state level. And that's true. All of these margin of error states, many of them remained margin of error. Okay, but something is deeply wrong in the polling industry. Something is deeply wrong in our media industry. They were suggesting that Joe Biden could hide in his basement and run away with this thing. This is not a runaway under any circumstances. Not only is it not a runaway, these aren't even the worst polling errors. The worst polling errors are not on the heavily polled Trump-Biden race. The worst polling errors were all of the polling errors in the Senate. There, they just blew it. And I will pat myself on the back for my prediction on the Senate. I did say I thought that Republicans would likely hold the Senate. So, a mess for pollsters today, an absolute mess. And a big night for Republicans, by the way. If you're a Republican, regardless of how this turns out with Trump, because that's still up in the air and he could still win this thing depending on how those late votes are counted, depending on whether there are lawsuits, right? This is still very much up in the air. Regardless of that, if you're a Republican or a conservative, you should feel very good moving forward. This was supposed to be a year like 2018 where Democrats walked away with this thing, or it was a blue tidal wave washing away all in its path, where Joe Biden was going to win by 10 points nationally. He was going to carry 350 electoral votes, where Democrats were going to walk away with the Senate, where they were going to then nuke the filibuster and then use it to cram through states and cram through court packing. None of that's going to happen now. Senator Mitch McConnell is going to be in charge of the Senate majority in all likelihood at this point, which is a devastating blow to the Democrats. And old, slow Joe Biden winning what may be the narrowest electoral college victory in American history, right? If it turns out that Trump wins Georgia and he wins Pennsylvania and Biden wins all of the others, the election gap is something like 270 to 268. Okay, that is as close as it is possible to get. Okay, that is not a massive mandate for a huge world-beating change. And Joe Biden is old and doddering, and Joe Biden can't hold a thought in his head, and he's going to face a fractious coalition. So if you're a conservative, regardless of what happens going forward, if you just stop time at this moment before we even know what happens in the presidential race, last night was a very, very good night for Republicans and demonstrates full scale that our media are garbage and need to be replaced forthwith.